No one dared cross the Millionaire sill until the new secretary revealed an incredible truth. Emily Thompson had heard the whispers in the sleek, glass-enclosed office and sensed their fear. The air was thick with ambition, but beneath that glossy surface lay a raw, pulsing nerve of dread. Mitchell Warren, the formidable CEO, dominated the room like a dark cloud, casting shadows over lives with calculated precision. She was just a secretary, but uncertainty turned in the pit of her stomach, reminding her of the stakes. Her daughter Lily deserved better. As the clock ticked late into the evening, Emily meticulously filed papers, her heartbeat sinking dangerously with each tick. Hours stretched, thoughts collided. Bills piled up at home. 2 rent checks away from eviction. What if she could uncover something that might shift the tides? Just the thought sent a thrill through her that was laced with fear. She held her breath and sifted through the dusty boxes meant for shredding. A flicker of hope ignited as her fingers grazed a familiar logo, her father's architectural firm. She pulled out the brittle plans for a bakery, his final dream. Her throat tightened as the realization hit. Mitchell was on the verge of snatching it away, dismantling not just bricks and mortar, but her father's legacy. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Emily's breaths quickened. How could this man, with his tailored suits and shark-like smile, hold the power to erase everything her father built? Anxiety tightened her chest. Every face in the office seemed to reflect her despair. Eyes averted, brows furrowed. Did they know? The weight of silence encased her. A delicate balance of duty to her daughter and the fight for something greater. Paul, the retired architect she met at the cafe, urged her to confront her fears. Emily, you have the power to protect his legacy, he had said. But his words felt both empowering and terrifying. Could she stand in front of this titan, bare her soul and risk everything? Thoughts churned in an endless loop. The jagged edges of responsibility clawed at her, urging her to safeguard Lily's future. As the meeting drew closer, she stared into the glass building's reflection, half expecting to see courage looking back, but only doubt loomed. Would Mitchell yield to a riled secretary with a last hope? Would this revelation destroy her? The notion of becoming a target buried deeper in uncertainty. The office buzz, chatter heightened. She felt the pressure surrounding her like a noose. On the day of reckoning, her heart raced as she stood in front of the board of directors, surrounded by polished faces. The hard edges of Mitchell's demeanor barely masked a flicker of vulnerability at her words. She could see it then, the structure behind the titan cracked. But would she risk everything for the truth? The air hung thick with possibilities, leaving Emily on the precipice of something monumental, an intersection of hope and fear. Would she remain victorious, or was this the beginning of a far darker conflict? A chill ran down Emily's spine as she stood before the board, the reality of her situation sinking in. The room felt like a battleground, lined with eager spectators ready to pounce. Each moment stretched, and she willed herself to gather the strength to push forward. She had uncovered her father's plans, snippets of his dreams etched into pages, but exposing Mitchell Warren's actions could either save those dreams or dash them forever. What ensures the integrity of our company? She began, her voice trembling as it filled the boardroom. If we allow someone like Mitchell to trample on the legacy of those who built it? My father poured his soul into that bakery design. Each word she spoke was like a stone thrown into a still pond, ripples of shock visible on the faces surrounding her. Mitchell shifted, his eyes narrowing with a mixture of anger and curiosity. The silence threatened to engulf her, but Emily pressed on, remembering Lily's innocent smile and her father's unwavering belief in her abilities. This was her chance not just for her family, but to reclaim a piece of her father's heart. That design was not just paperwork. It was a dream, a vision for the community. As she spoke, a sense of empowerment surged through her, cutting through the air thick with tension. She could feel her voice gaining strength, resonating outwards, awakening something in others' shadows. One board member, an older gentleman with a kind face, leaned forward slightly, his eyebrows raised. Mitchell interjected sharply. You've lost your place in this discussion, Emily. You're a secretary and nothing more. The dismissal hit hard, a knife twisting in her gut. Yet within that dismissal the fire in her grew, igniting a fierce resolve she hadn't known existed. No, she could hardly recognize her own voice. It was filled with a confidence she hadn't tapped into before. I refuse to be just a secretary. I'm a guardian of his legacy, and I will fight for it. It was a declaration, not just against Mitchell but against the very thoughts that had kept her locked in the shadows. The board reacted in a cocktail of disbelief and intrigue, their eyes darting between her and Mitchell. Tension thickened like fog in the room. She could taste the bitterness of her fear, but it was overshadowed by an unexpected surge of courage. As the meeting progressed, whispers flared, uncertainty dancing through the air like wildfire. The board was reeling, and Emily realized she had the authority of truth on her side, a catalyst that might just turn their landscape upside down. Moments passed, each one charged with possibility. She could feel the energy shift. She was becoming a part of the conversation, no longer a side note. The very architecture of her existence was being rewritten, leading her down a path of unexpected personal growth. But Mitchell, rattled yet resilient, wouldn't let her overpower him. Your time mistaking hope for strategy ends here, Emily. His voice dripped with disregard, and she could see a flicker of desperation in his eyes. A smile tugged at the corners of her mouth. It was cheeky, almost reckless. Isn't it the desperate who fight the hardest? She shot back, an instinctive challenge that resonated with an eternal truth. As the atmosphere crackled with an intensity she hadn't anticipated, Emily understood that this was more than just a meeting. It was a battle for control, not only of her father's legacy but also of her self-worth. Every heartbeat echoed the weight of her choice. The ramifications stretched far beyond her immediate fears in front of Mitchell. The board members began to exchange murmurs, an air of unpredictability surrounding their allegiance as she perceived their wavering confidence in Mitchell. But as the conversation escalated, so did the stakes. With every revelation, she sensed Mitchell's grip tightening, his next move looming like a thunderstorm on the horizon. Emily braced herself for the thunderclap that might follow. The moment of reckoning was rapidly approaching. What force would he unleash to hold on to his power? The temperature in the room shifted, the stakes now sharper than ever. Yet within that maelstrom, she felt a steely determination crystallizing. The battle for her father's legacy and her own was only beginning, and the confrontation had ignited a new spark. What would she uncover next, and how far would she go to protect that legacy before the final blow fell? The air crackled with tension as the board members shifted in their seats, their expressions revealing a mix of skepticism and intrigue. Emily stood at the center of the storm, the weight of the moment pressing down on her shoulders, but this was no longer the trembling secretary they had known. Each breath filled her with purpose, igniting a resilience she never knew existed. Mitchell was clearly rattled, his brow furrowing as he clutched his notes, desperately trying to regain control of the narrative. She could see the flickers of doubt pulsating through him, and with each heartbeat, her confidence solidified. This was precisely the shift she had been fighting for, her truth echoing loudly amidst the rising chaos. Let us not forget why we're here, Emily articulated, her voice steadying as she gestured emphatically to the notes before her. My father envisioned a bakery that would not only serve quality food, but also foster connection within our community. You, Mitchell, are threatening that vision with your pursuit of profit at any cost. Her bold assertion seemed to hang in the air, drawing attention from previously indifferent board members. They exchanged glances, slowly absorbing the matter at hand. The facade of loyalty around Mitchell began to crack like glass under the pressure of Emily's conviction, and she noticed a few members shift towards her side, their expressions betraying a flicker of support. Mitchell's irritation flared, as he leaned forward, attempting to reclaim the battlefield. You are out of your depth, Emily. These grand ideals are fine for a motivational poster, but bottom lines don't care about dreams. We need to talk numbers, profit margins, and market growth. His rebuttal stung, yet it only propelled Emily deeper into her resolve. Numbers were important, but they couldn't eclipse the essence of their business. Your vision is so myopic that you cannot see what is right in front of you. What good are numbers if they come at the cost of losing our identity? We are not just a business, We are a legacy. The determination in her voice fortified her stance, casting doubt on Mitchell's ruthless tactics. She could sense a shift in the atmosphere, an undercurrent of discontent brewing among her listeners. They were not just looking for a financial risk assessment. They were seeking a purpose, a reason to believe in the family business again. One of the younger board members, his name a distant memory, was nodding slightly, his body language signaling a growing alignment with her perspective. Emily seized the moment. We must be stewards of something greater than ourselves. I am here because I believe in the legacy we need to protect, not just the business that drives revenue. Mitchell's way will break us apart piece by piece. A murmur of agreement rippled through the assembly, and Emily felt the tide turning, or so she hoped. Each word felt like a step into the unknown, a dance along the precipice between vulnerability and power. Yet she recognized the risk that came with such boldness. Standing up against someone of Mitchell's stature could be perilous. His expression hardened as he retaliated. This is not a fairy tale, Emily. You think your emotions can sway us? You're just a secretary, playing with dreams that don't pay the bills. But those words no longer struck with their intended weight. Instead, they fueled her fire, reminding her of everything she stood to lose and everything she could gain. What you don't understand is that I am no longer just a secretary, she challenged, feeling adrenaline surge through her like a pulse. I'm the voice of a legacy that has real, tangible value to our customers and to our community. And as long as I stand here, I will not allow anyone, especially not you, to undermine its worth. The room shifted, conversation springing to life in whispers, some board members nodding in unison, while others remained firmly aligned with Mitchell. Emily could feel her heart race as the stakes rose higher. This was a pivotal moment, not just for the legacy she was fighting for, but for the new self that was emerging with every confrontation. But as she gauged the shifting tides of allegiance among her colleagues, she realized that this battle was just one front in a more complex war. There was something deeper lurking beneath the surface, potential allies and hidden agendas tying into the narrative of her father's dream. What other secrets lay in the shadows of Mitchell's empire? And how far was she willing to go to uncover them? Little did she know, the greatest challenges were yet to unfold. Tests of both her character and conviction that would reshape her forever. As the meeting adjourned, Emily's heart thudded in her chest, the adrenaline still coursing through her veins. She stepped out of the boardroom, the door closing behind her with a finality that echoed her shifting identity. No longer a mere employee caught in the bureaucratic snare of Mitchell's ambitions, she was stepping boldly into a new role, a custodian of her father's legacy. Each step into the hallway felt deliberate, as if the floor beneath her bore witness to her transformation. In the quiet isolation of her office, she leaned against her desk, fingers trembling slightly as she traced the oat grain. Thoughts whirled in her mind. She had stirred the pot, but with an uncertain outcome. What did this mean for her? For the bakery? Every decision henceforth felt heavy with consequence, a delicate balance between heart and head. She recalled the board members' faces, the hesitant nods of encouragement that had emerged amid the tumult. Could she truly hold their faith? The thought sparked an ember of hope, yet flickered at the edges with self-doubt. What if the tides turned back, sweeping her under like a distant memory? The tension of the encounter persisted, gnawing at her resolve. Then, a thought broke through the cloud of worry. She had a responsibility to her father's vision, but also a responsibility to herself. She began to devise strategies, not just to combat Mitchell, but to innovate, reinvigorating the bakery with ideas rooted in the community it had once celebrated. She turned her focus inward, seeking tools and insights that could equip her for the escalating battle ahead. Emily took a seat, the familiar squeak of the chair contributing to her moment of introspection. She grabbed a notebook, its pages crisp and fresh, and began to jot down her vision. Collaboration, local sourcing, inviting community involvement ideas began flowing onto the page, each one igniting a flicker of excitement. With each word, she envisioned a bakery that breathed life into her father's dream, a place rooted in relationships and rich with authenticity. This was more than about numbers. It was about crafting stories and flavors that resonated beyond the walls of their establishment. Passion stirred her emotions, buoying her spirit and pushing the fear deeper into the recesses of her mind. But Emily knew that dreaming alone wouldn't suffice. She had to gather allies, individuals brave enough to stand by her side. The younger board members who had nodded in support earlier were her best bet. They were the fresh voices, the ones with enthusiasm unchanged by the rigors of time. Perhaps they could help sway the others. With renewed determination, she crafted a plan. Over the next few days, she would reach out, suggest informal meetings, maybe even a brainstorming session that could harness the fresh energy swimming among the group. It could serve as an informal platform to present her ideas and gauge their interest. Lost in her thoughts, Emily almost didn't notice time slipping by until a soft knock on the door yanked her back to reality. It was Sarah, a member of the younger board cohort. "Can we talk?" she asked, hesitation outlining her features. Emily motioned for her to enter, sensing an opening and opportunity to share her vision and gather support before she confronted Mitchell directly. This was her chance, a moment to fortify her position and solidify her intent. "Absolutely," Emily replied, her voice steady. As they began to converse, she felt the weight of uncertainty lift slightly. But within her an unyielding question resonated. How deep was the loyalty of her newfound allies, and could they withstand the repercussions of standing against Mitchell? The battle had just begun, and with it came the unsettling realization that every ally came with their own shadows. What would they uncover together, and how much was she willing to risk to salvage her father's dream? Every instinct told her that true opposition was yet to reveal itself, a test not only of their resolve but of the very foundation of everything she believed in. Would they emerge stronger or be drawn into the mire? As the conversation unfolded, the stakes soared, foreshadowing the conflict that lay ahead. Emily leaned forward, her elbows resting on her desk, as Sarah settled into the chair opposite her. The air thickened with anticipation, each moment stretching out as Emily gathered her thoughts, eager to outline her vision yet anxious about exposing her vulnerability. "I could see the passion behind your words in the boardroom," Sarah began, her voice laced with sincerity. "It struck me that we might be able to push for real change." Emily nodded, encouraged by this spark of kinship. "Yes, but it won't be easy. You know how resistant the others can be, particularly Mitchell. I need allies who understand the depth of my father's dream." Sarah's expression changed, a flicker of resolve crossing her features. "I'm in. But if we're going to do this, we need a clear strategy." As they brainstormed, ideas poured onto Emily's notebook, a sanctuary now holding fragments of their ambition. They spoke of partnerships with local farmers, crafting a seasonal menu that showcased the area's strengths, and community workshops that could serve as both outreach and platforms for meaningful dialogue. Articulating her thoughts ignited a fire within Emily, one that began to shine through her uncertainty. Let us not just react to what Mitchell does. We need to proactively engage and create something worthwhile that speaks to everyone's interests. But beneath the excitement, Emily sensed a growing weight. Questions flickered in her mind. Would this collaboration be genuine, or merely a strategy to survive the boardroom politics? Yet, as Sarah's enthusiasm fueled her plans, they simultaneously stoked fear of the consequences that may follow their rebellion. Meeting after meeting ensued. The younger board members gathered like moths drawn to the flame of Emily's vision. Each session sparked new ideas and affirmed her resolve, until the cautious whispers morphed into a rallying cry. They aligned their goals, carving a path forward that transcended the egos of their superiors. The atmosphere evolved. Energy surged in the bakery, reflecting the engagement the team was building. But as momentum gathered, so did scrutiny. As Emily's presence grew more influential, so did the weight of her choices. Every suggestion was a double-edged sword, and with every bold dream came the looming specter of failure. One late afternoon, as daylight waned, Emily investigated deeper motives behind her allies' avid support. During conversations, she couldn't shake nagging thoughts. Had they aligned with her for commitment to her father's legacy or simply to escape their own stagnation? Yet, a part of her pushed her doubts aside, craving a leap of faith that might prove both enlightening and disastrous. Just as she was settling back into her resolve, a message pinged through her phone. An invitation for an urgent meeting came through, signed by Mitchell. Anxiety knotted in her stomach. This was a direct confrontation looming on the horizon. The time had come to face the architect of her fears. Emily knew she had no choice but to stand her ground. Sarah's loyalty burned brightly in her mind. She wouldn't be alone in this. As night enveloped the city, Emily sat quietly, her reflection staring back from the darkened window. Shivering under the weight of unspoken truths and half-formed plans, she grasped her notebook tightly, reminding herself that she wasn't just defending her father's legacy but challenging the very heart of the old guard. With resolve twisting within her, Emily prepared to enter the fray, fully aware that the next move might unravel her carefully woven tapestry of alliances. Standing at the precipice of conflict, she knew one thing. The moment of truth was imminent, and she had to confront the consequences of her emerging leadership. Would she be able to hold fast to her vision under pressure, or would the very fabric of her dreams unravel? Emily stood in front of the polished conference table, a faint sheen of sweat forming on her brow. The sleek environment of the boardroom felt both intimidating and stifling, adorned with corporate awards and framed photographs of successful past projects that now seemed like echoes of a fading era. She could feel all eyes on her, the weight of expectation pressing down, intertwining with her burgeoning determination. Mitchell, the architect of her fears, sat at the head of the table, the very embodiment of authority. His presence consumed the room as he addressed the gathering, his voice smooth but sharp. I wanted to call this meeting to discuss some ideas I've been hearing. They seem to be causing quite a stir, Emily. His gaze bore into her. Care to elaborate? Drawing a deep breath, Emily steadied herself. I believe our bakery can harmonize with local agriculture, utilizing seasonal ingredients to create authentic dishes that resonate with our community. She felt a flicker of apprehension but embraced it like armor. This could set us apart from our competitors and rejuvenate our image. Mitchell leaned back, the corner of his mouth twitching into a disingenuous smile. But at what cost? Your father's legacy? He paused, relishing the rising tension. You're suggesting we change a long-standing business model, one that has built this company into what it is today. Emily's heart raced, and internal forces clashed. Was she sacrificing heritage for innovation, or was she merely igniting a necessary evolution? It's about balance, Mitchell. Tradition matters, but so does progress. We cannot anchor ourselves to the past at the expense of future growth. A murmur rippled through the room, echoing her words but weighed down by the gravity of their implications. Her colleagues exchanged glances, unsure, caught in a web of their commitments and aspirations. Mitchell sensed the shift in the atmosphere, his expression hardening. And what makes you think the board will support this radical approach? You're playing a dangerous game. It was then that doubt crowded her mind again. Was her vision worth the fight? Yet, a deeper recognition began to surface. The conviction that drove her was not just for her father's dream, it was for her own identity as a leader, something she desperately needed to embrace. I'm not backing down, she stated, her voice steadying, imbued with a newfound clarity. I'm prepared to present our proposals, to engage the community, and bring transparency to our practices. Change is uncomfortable but necessary. We have to face our realities. For a moment, silence hung in the air. Then, as if a dam broke, voices erupted from the younger board members, rallying around Emily's vision. Their support ignited something primal within her. She wasn't merely playing a role. She was becoming the catalyst, an embodiment of change. Mitchell's displeasure twisted into something more profound, a flicker of real concern. His attempts to quash dissent were crumbling, and Emily noticed a new resolve in herself carving away at the insecurities that once chained her. Consider this carefully, Emily, Mitchell warned, his voice low. Success requires understanding the risks. Could cost you everything. A shiver ran down her spine, but she held his gaze. Or it could provide everything I've ever wanted, a chance to truly honor my father and redefine our legacy. As the meeting adjourned, whispers lingered in the air, doubt and hope swirling together. Emily walked out, her mind racing with ideas burgeoning anew. She knew the struggle was just beginning. Mitchell wouldn't give up easily, nor would her journey be straightforward. Yet as she stepped outside, the cool evening air wrapped around her like a refreshing balm. She sensed that something had shifted. The fight was no longer just about preserving a dream. It had become a battle for her own identity, her place in this world. The realization struck her with a potent force. Each step she took forward brought her closer to not just a business transformation, but a personal revolution. But as dread settled in at the thought of Mitchell's impending retaliation, she wondered, could her allies withstand the storm of his influence, or would they buckle under pressure? The retreating sun cast long shadows, and Emily felt their weight on her shoulders. The true test of her emerging leadership loomed just ahead. What sacrifices would she need to make to protect her vision from the dark forces threatening to engulf it? Determined to forge her path, Emily awoke the next morning with a clear resolve. She glanced at the digital clock, its harsh glow signaling the beginning of a new day, one that felt heavier than the last. The sunlight streamed through her window, bright yet indifferent, as if mocking her insecurities. She leaned against the cool surface of the kitchen counter, a cup of coffee cradled between her hands, when an idea sparked, igniting her brain with urgency. What if she could tap into a different level of support? The older board members, while traditional, might not be as averse to change as she had assumed. They were tied to the history of the bakery, but also longed for assurance that the business remained relevant. Emily decided to reach out to a few of them individually. "Susan," she said, speaking aloud as she imagined the conversation, "you've championed change on our marketing strategies in the past. If I could get you on board, it might shift the tides." With a newfound sense of agency, Emily crafted an email to Susan, articulate and inviting, expressing her vision and, more importantly, her willingness to listen. This wasn't just about argument, it was about building bridges in a terrain littered with doubt. As she hit send, a rush of adrenaline filled her, an electric undercurrent of hope mingled with apprehension. What if this failed? The thought startled her. Yet she countered it with another. What if it worked? Each day that passed after the meeting morphed into a flurry of conversations and brainstorming sessions. Susan responded positively, and they met for coffee, a casual setting that disarmed Emily's lingering fears. Susan's initial cautions morphed into constructive suggestions, and Emily found herself morphing those fears into strategic plans. They brainstormed ideas, diving deeper into community engagement, tying local ingredients to the company's unique selling proposition and fostering relationships that could redefine the bakery's essence. As Emily jotted down notes, she realized she was finding her voice not just as someone attempting to earn respect, but as an innovative leader in her own right. Each line she wrote reinforced that she was fighting for something greater than her father's legacy. She was carving her own space within it. Yet old habits die hard. Despite her mounting confidence, Mitchell remained a looming shadow. His tactical maneuvers during meetings grew increasingly aggressive, often aiming to undermine not just her ideas but her presence. Emails blackening her proposal's merits hit her inbox without pause. He sought to stifle the energy she created, but she learned to counteract with swift replies, reframing his arguments and emphasizing the support she now had, both in Susan and the younger members backing her. The tension escalated into direct confrontations. The boardroom became a battleground, punctuated by heated debates that reflected the clash of eras. It was disheartening, and sometimes Emily felt like a child dwarfed by giants. Yet she learned the necessity of standing firm. With every disagreement came a new opportunity for her voice to be heard. Late one night, after a particularly tough meeting, she sat at her kitchen table with open notebooks surrounding her, filled with plans and sketches. She stared at her reflection in the window, wrestling with her purpose. What was she truly fighting for? The answer revealed itself in flashes, like memories swimming to the surface. She wasn't just protecting her father's dream. She was on the cusp of defining her legacy, and that realization was exhilarating. But as she reflected, a nagging whisper crept back in. What was Mitchell planning next? How far would he go to maintain control? The weight of uncertainty pressed heavily against her, a reminder of how fragile alliances could be in a corporate space filled with ambition and rivalry. Emily recognized this. Her mission was far from over. That night, as she prepared for sleep, the flicker of fear and adrenaline danced through her veins. Decisions lay ahead, vital ones that could either affirm her direction or lead to a dead end. Would she bet on her emerging leadership and the alliances she was cultivating, or would she risk it all against a foe whose desperation she could barely yet gauge? As she drifted off, a single thought consumed her mind. The time had come to face Mitchell directly, to confront what she had become, and what she was willing to fight for in this relentless game of power. Emily woke to a gray morning, the clouds heavy and low as if mirroring the weight in her chest. She rubbed her eyes, trying to shake off the remnants of sleep that clung to her like a fog. This day felt different. It was a tangible cusp between inaction and the inevitable confrontation that loomed ahead. Determined, she pulled herself from the softness of the sheets, ready to embrace whatever awaited her. The buzz of her phone on the kitchen counter jolted her from her thoughts. A message from Susan popped up, an overwhelming wave of encouragement. "You've got this, Emily. Stand firm." Those words danced in her mind as she poured a steady stream of coffee, its aroma aligning with her rising resolve. Her routine was an anchor, yet today it felt more like a ritual that required her full presence. In the office, the atmosphere was charged. Board members gathered, but this time Emily sensed an alteration. The younger members were beginning to lean towards her vision. They threw glances her way, expressions of curiosity mixed with sparks of rebellion against Mitchell's authority. As she gathered her notes for the upcoming meeting, tension constricted her breath. Mitchell strode in, a whirlwind of confidence framed by tailored suits. The room fell silent, eyes darting towards him, but Emily refused to succumb. She placed her papers down, her comprehensive plan filled with community-driven ideas, fresh partnerships, and alternative marketing strategies, and straightened her back, feeling every inch of the leader she had begun to forge. The discussion commenced, with Mitchell dismissively taking center stage initially. His words dripped with calculated disdain, challenging her ideas before she even articulated them. "Are we really going to serve cupcakes made with locally sourced flour and prattling on about community engagement?" He scoffed, his gaze sweeping across the room. Each word struck like a sharp knife, yet Emily felt a strange heat rise within her. "Why not?" she countered, pushing back against the air of condescension. "Our customers desire authenticity, and we serve a community more sophisticated than you're giving them credit for." She could feel the collective breath of the room change. Whispers of agreement fluttered around her like a gentle breeze, strengthening her grip on the conversation. As she presented her ideas, she found herself transforming every challenge Mitchell threw into a stepping stone. She crafted counterpoints built upon her newfound alliances, showcasing not only her vision but also the enthusiasm of her peers. The meeting turned into a duel, but one that brought out skills she hadn't known she possessed. Emily was no longer merely defending her territory. She was planting the seeds of change, each argument swelling with the tones of passionate conviction. The more Mitchell pushed, the more resolute she became, surprising even herself at her depth of resolve. Hours passed, and as the board meeting concluded, Emily felt an unexpected sense of exhilaration mixed with trepidation. Each fight only opened another door, another opportunity for proving herself. Walking out of that room, adrenaline coursed through her veins. However, she was left questioning the cost of her victories. What would happen when Mitchell retaliated? The stakes had risen, and Emily couldn't shake off the nagging fear that he would come back with a vengeance. As she turned to leave the building, a small piece of paper slipped from her notes, fluttering to the ground. When she picked it up, she saw a scribbled name and number. Susan had planted a seed of hope in her pocket. "Call me anytime, I'll back you up," it read. In that moment, Emily realized that the support she thought fragile had begun to crystallize into something formidable. Just as she stepped outside, her phone rang. A familiar voice greeted her, but it wasn't Susan. "Emily, we need to talk." Mitchell's voice cut through the air, smooth yet menacing. "I believe we have some unfinished business." The unspoken threats loomed large as Emily stood at the precipice of a brewing storm, a new phase ready to unfurl. Would this confrontation shake her confidence or propel her toward unforeseen strengths? The answer lingered in the air, waiting for resolution. Emily's heart raced as she stared at her phone, the weight of Mitchell's words pressing against her consciousness. He would corner her, and instinctively, she felt the urge to push back against the force of his influence. She had tasted the exhilarating flavor of defiance earlier in the meeting, and now, the very prospect of a direct confrontation with him sent tendrils of anxiety rippling through her thoughts. She took a deep breath, attempting to summon the fiery resolve she had just discovered within herself. The moment felt critical, a crossroads in her career. She could retreat into the shadows of doubt or step boldly into the light of her convictions. Emily glanced around the parking lot as she paced toward her car, searching for answers in the clouds that hung overhead. Each step echoed with a rhythm of purpose she had yet to fully embrace. Her past hesitations, the endless recalibrations of her self-doubt, clashed with the newfound tenacity that had awakened within her. A flicker of inspiration struck her. She had a chance to reshape this narrative and define her stake in this company. Not just for herself but for those who were starting to see her as a threat to the old ways represented by Mitchell. This wasn't merely about cupcakes, this was about integrity, authenticity, and the future she dared to envision. As she climbed into her car, Emily's fingers hit the steering wheel in a determined rhythm. She wouldn't wait for Mitchell to dictate the terms of their conversation. She'd take control. She dialed Susan. "Can you meet me? I have a plan," she said, her voice lacking its previous uncertainty. "Absolutely, where?" Susan responded, excitement palpable through the line. "Coffee shop on 5th, 20 minutes," Emily answered, invigorated by her own decisiveness. She needed a sounding board, someone who could give her perspective and help firm up her strategy. The drive felt almost surreal, as if she were gliding between two worlds, the timid employee held under Mitchell's thumb, and the dynamic leader standing firmly on her convictions. Arriving at the coffee shop, she spotted Susan waiting outside, arms crossed, a knowing smile tugging at her lips. Sitting down, Emily shared her experience from the board meeting, recounting not just the challenges but the unexpected support she had felt from her peers. "I think we're at a tipping point. I just need to find a way to codify that support, to give it a structure so it can't be easily dismissed." "Sounds like you have some allies if you play it right," Susan said, nodding with enthusiasm. "It's not just about the ideas anymore. You need to create a coalition of support not just in the boardroom, but also among the rest of the company staff." Emily's mind spiraled with possibilities. What if I create an internal group? An initiative where we explore fresh ideas that let employees from all levels voice their opinions on advancing this company's direction? "Mitchell can't silence all of us at once." Susan leaned forward, eyes sparkling with intrigue. "That could definitely rattle him, but it has to be executed with precision. You might also want to find a way to quietly gauge support from upper management." A plan began to crystallize as they discussed strategies and potential pitfalls. Emily's confidence grew stronger with every layer they added to her approach. Yet, an underlying fear shadowed her excitement. Each step felt as though it could lead her deeper into conflict. Upon leaving the cafe, she felt a renewed sense of agency, but dread lurked just beneath the surface. What would happen when Mitchell inevitably pushed back? Her pulse quickened at the thought of looming confrontations. Just as she was about to drive away, her phone buzzed. A new message from Mitchell flashed on the screen. "I hope you're ready. I've prepared some surprises for our chat." The threat lay heavy in the air, but Emily clenched her fists around the steering wheel. She wasn't going to shy away. This was about survival, not just for herself but for the broader vision she had begun to craft. The time had come, and, with it an undeniable truth, to thrive in this corporate jungle, Emily had to embrace the fight ahead. She steered her car toward the office, heart pounding, ready to confront the storm head-on. Would she emerge transformed, or would her resolve be tested beyond what she could bear? The answers awaited her just around the corner. As Emily arrived at the familiar building, the weight of what lay ahead began to crystallize in her mind. This moment wasn't just about defending her father's legacy or challenging Mitchell. It was a declaration of her newfound self. With each determined breath, she strode toward the entrance, her heart pounding with purpose. Entering the boardroom felt different this time. The familiar polished wooden table surrounded by expectant faces no longer intimidated her. Instead, she embraced that energy, fueling the resolve that had ignited within her. Mitchell sat at the head of the table, a tense smirk playing on his lips, betraying his calculating demeanor. His confidence, once overwhelming, was now tangible friction, a challenge she was ready to meet. "Let us cut to the chase," Mitchell said, his voice sharp. "You've rallied some support, but how do you plan to convince the board? Your little scheme smells like desperation." Emily paused, feeling the weight shift in the atmosphere as unexpected encouragement surged from behind her. The younger board members exchanged glances, their smiles betraying their allegiance to her vision. "It's not a scheme, Mitchell. It's a movement, a necessary evolution for our company," Emily asserted, her voice steady with conviction. The room quieted and she seized the momentum. "In the past month, I have explored ways to weave our bakery into the fabric of this community. This isn't just about profit margins. This is about purpose. Our legacy offers us a real chance to connect, innovate, and lead with authenticity." Her words resonated, sparking an undercurrent of support as eyes shifted back and forth, gauging reactions. Mitchell's expression shifted slightly, a crack in his armor. And you think throwing fancy concepts around will change the bottom line? I don't think I know. The confidence in her voice surged like a wave. I've taken the liberty to gather insights. Community preferences reflect growing demand for local, sustainable practices, a concept your rigid approach ignores. In that moment, something profound shifted within her. Every challenge Mitchell posed was another opportunity to define her position, to sharpen her narrative. She continued, we can establish partnerships with local farmers, craft seasonal menus, and create workshops that attract families to our bakery, not just to sell cookies, but to share in the heartbeat of the community. Mitchell attempted to cut her off, ready to wield his influence like a weapon. And how do you propose to tackle the inevitable pushback from those burying their heads in corporate anxiety? Emily remained unfazed. By equipping our team with a voice, I propose an internal initiative, the Legacy Task Force, where everyone, from entry-level to upper management, can contribute ideas. We can embrace innovation without sacrificing our principles. The other members responded with nods and murmurs of approval, and she could feel the tide shifting. This was not merely a delegation of ideas but an emerging coalition. Her strength was no longer drawn from solitary resolve, but the burgeoning energy of collaboration. Mitchell glared at her, and for the first time, she saw uncertainty flicker behind his steely facade. A task force? What do you think this is, a performance? The market demands profitability. Results can flourish alongside our purpose. Emily wasn't backing down. Our stakeholders want to believe in something beyond figures. They want to see their values reflected in our business. They need a bakery, not just a balance sheet. The atmosphere had transformed into a buzz of energy. Emily's words were igniting a fire in the room. Board members leaned in, further inclined towards her vision. She took a breath, gathering her strength, and continued resolutely. Mitchell, the cost of remaining stagnant is a price we can't afford. People aren't inspired by the same old model. Change might rattle you, but it will also catapult us forward. This isn't just about me. It's about the future of our entire team and the community we serve. The horizon began to shift. She could feel the collective breath of her colleagues changing, their desire for growth battling against Mitchell's hold. She turned her attention to the board members supportive of her, making eye contact, affirming their resolve together. As Mitchell mulled over his next words, Emily seized the last control she needed. I propose we put it to a vote. Let us see if our board believes in stagnancy or supports innovation. Very well, Mitchell replied. But there was an undertone of frustration now tinged with the fear of losing control. He was outmatched in conviction, a reality he was realizing too late as the board voted. Emily's heart raced, not solely for the outcome but for the powerful storm she had become a part of. Each eye was like a flame igniting a new path forward, unlocking potential within her that she had only begun to understand. When the vote concluded, the majority had rallied behind her vision. Mitchell's mask of authority crumbled into something raw and revealing, a gateway for Emily's triumph. That moment transcended mere policy. It became a testament to her transformation. Stepping out of the boardroom, a flood of relief washed over her. She glanced at each familiar face, feeling the warmth of solidarity and support. No longer just a secretary, she was an architect of change, a leader shaping her own destiny. Emily's heart swelled with pride as she realized the truth she'd unearthed. This was not just a win for her father's legacy. It was her legacy as well. She had proven to herself that she could forge a path rooted in integrity while asserting her worth. That as she stood in that moment of victory, she found the words to encapsulate her journey. Transformation is never easy, but persevering through storms and embracing the fight leads not only to personal achievement but collective success as well. In that essence lay her true fulfillment, a testament to resilience, courage, and unwavering belief in her dreams. Now, standing before the horizon of possibilities, she embraced the challenge of nurturing what they would build together. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Your support is vital. Comment your reactions and theories about this empowering journey. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this incredible conclusion. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share this message.